Dear students, this is our second recorded lecture of Principles of Economics course, and in this record we will discuss the first part of Chapter 2. As I said, today we will cover the first part of Chapter 2, which is entitled as the economic problem. Last week we explained the meaning of economics and economic problem shortly, where economic problem arises because of the existence of many needs and the limited availability of resources, which is known as the scarcity problem. So in this lecture, we will have a closer look on the economic problem because, as you know, every day we produce a huge amount of goods and services. But the quantities of these goods and services are limited both by our available resources and by current level of technology. This implies that if we want to increase our production of one good, we must decrease our production of something else, which means that we face a trade-off as we have explained in chapter 1. So we need to understand how can we use the available resources in an efficient way such that we can achieve the greatest satisfaction of our needs. So now let's start the lecture by outlining the main learning outcomes of chapter 2. At the end of this chapter, you are expected to be able to define the production possibility frontier, which is shortly known as the Ppf. Also, you will be able to use Ppf to compute the opportunity cost of different levels of production. Then you can explain the difference between production possibilities and consumer preferences and how we can use the available resources to satisfy these preferences. And this implies achieving the efficient allocation of resources. And you will be also able to explain how current production choices lead to an expansion of future production possibilities, and explain how specialization and trade expands the production possibilities. And finally, you will be able to describe the economic institutions that coordinate decisions in what is known the circular flow of the economy. Well, let's start with the first point, which is the meaning of production possibility frontier, which is the boundary or the limits between those combination of goods and services that can be produced and those that cannot be produced. So, if we can draw it as a curve, this will show us the limits between what we can produce, which is points on this curve or under this curve, and the points or the levels of production that we cannot produce given our limited resources and the available technology, which are any point above this curve. Then, if we want to increase our production of a certain good, this could happen only on the expense of decreasing our production of other goods, which means that we face a trade-off. What is a trade-off? As explained in chapter 1, every choice implies a trade-off, which means that to get something, we have to sacrifice or forgo another thing. The reason is that we have limited resources and we cannot use the same resource to produce two different commodities at the same time. For example, If the worker is hired in a pizza restaurant, then he cannot work in another place at the same time. And then now before proceeding with the details of the PPF, please bear in mind that we assume that the quantities of only two commodities can vary, whereas the quantities of all other commodities will remain the same. This assumption is highly important to enable us to simplify the analysis, and by assuming this, we can draw the PPF as shown in the displayed figure, where we have two goods that can change, which are cola and pizza. As you can see in this figure, the amount of pizza is represented on the x-axis, and the amount of cola is represented on the y-axis. As I said, the PPF shows the different combinations of two commodities that can be produced given the resources available to the society. This means that the points on the curve itself represent the highest level of production that can be produced given the limited resources and the available technology. Now, how we can read the information displayed in the PPF figure? This graph tells us that we can use the available resources to produce at any point of the curve, where each point is a combination of both commodities. For example, if the society decides to produce at point A, then this means that we will produce 15 million cans of cola and we will not produce any pizza as shown here, because here the level of pizza is 0. Or if it chooses to produce at point B, then it will produce 14 million can of cola and just 1 million pizza. So the same illustration applies to other points on the curve such as C, D, E, and F. So finally, if the society decides to produce at this point F, in this case, all the resources will be used in the production of pizza. So we will produce 5 million pizza and the production of cola will be 0. So when we move from one point to another point, we can increase the production of one good only if we reduce the production of the other commodity, which means that every choice represents a trade-off or implies a trade-off. Now, let's ask a crucial question. Can we produce at points inside and outside the PPF? Well, we can produce at any point inside the curve, such as point Z. However, the problem with this point is that in this case, if we choose to produce at this point, this will not be an optimal option for the society. Why? Because here we are not using all the available resources in the society, and here we have some idle resources or we waste some of our resources that can be used to generate higher satisfaction for people living in this society. So, based on that, points inside the frontier are attainable, meaning that this combination of the two goods could be produced using the available resources, and the current level of technology. On the other hand, we cannot produce at points outside the Ppf, such as point N, because it will not be attainable for us, which reflects the scarcity problem. So, if we want to produce at points such as N, then we need to increase our resources, or we should improve our technology. We can do this only if we achieve economic growth, as I will explain next lecture. The second point of today's lecture is production efficiency, and we can define production efficiency, which implies that our level of production is efficient if we cannot produce more of one good without producing less of some other good. So, as we have just explained, this could only happen on the points on the Ppf itself. For example, assume that the society currently operates at point B. This means that we produce 1 million pizza and 14 million can of cola. So now assume that people want more 1 million pizza, which means that the demand on pizza increases from 1 million to 2 million pizza. To increase our production of pizza by 1 million, this could only happen if we can decrease the production of cola by 2 millions. So here we should decrease the production from 14 to 12. So we will move from point B to point C. So what we can see here is that when we moved from B to C, we have more pizza, but we have a lower amount of cola. So now if we try to apply the same analysis by moving between any 2 points, we will note that to increase the production of one good, we need to decrease the production of the other good. Why? Because we cannot use the same resources in the production of both goods at the same time. So achieving production efficiency means we produce goods and services at the lowest possible cost. Well, as I said, points inside the curve will be attainable. So point like Z can be achieved using our current level of technology and the available resources. But the question is that, will this point be efficient or not? The answer is no. Any point inside the frontier, such as it will not be efficient, or we can say that it's inefficient. Why? Because at point Z, we can produce 3 million pizza and 5 million can of cola. Now recall our previous example, which assumed that people want an additional 1 million pizza. So if this happens, we can move from point Z to point E. If we do this, we can increase our production of pizza from 3 to 4 million without decreasing our production of cola, and it will remain constant at 5 million can of cola. So as we can see at point E, we have more pizza without any reduction in the production of cola. So point Z is an efficient level of production, and at this point we have either unemployed or misallocated resources. Unemployed resources mean that some of the factories are idle or closed, or it may imply that some workers do not have jobs. Concerning the misallocation of resources, it means that resources are not assigned to the adequate or the best use. For example, this may imply that we assign a skilled pizza chef to work in a cola factory and a skilled cola producers to work in a pizza shop. If this happens, the productivity of both persons will be lower compared to their productivity if they are appointed to the right place, given their skills and experience. This means that we could get more pizza and more cola from these same workers if we reassign or reallocate them to the tasks that are consistent with their skills and experience. The third point of the lecture is the Ppf and opportunity cost. Now let's explain how the different choices along the Ppf involves a trade-off. As we can see, if we move from any point to another point on the Ppf, we trade off cola for pizza, which means that we get more pizza only if we can give up some of the cola. This trade-off appears because at any given point of time we have fixed amount of available resources. So concerning trade-off, you should keep in mind that the trade-off can appear or exists in every real-world situation. For example, when you want to study, then you face a trade-off. Because if you increase your studying time, you must decrease your leisure time. Also for government, if they allocate some resources to build new schools, then the government will face a trade-off. As if it spends more on education, it should reduce its spending on other public services such as health or national defense. Based on that, we can conclude the following. Moving along the Ppf employs a trade-off involved in diverting resources from the production of one thing to the production of another thing. So we can gain one thing, but at the opportunity cost of losing something else. As I said, all trade-off implies a cost, which we can call the opportunity cost. So let's explain the opportunity cost and explain how we can compute it. So let's define it. We can define the opportunity cost of an action as the highest valued alternative that we must sacrifice. So using the Ppf will enable us to calculate the opportunity cost because along the Ppf there are only two goods, so there is only one alternative that we will sacrifice, which is sum of the quantity of the other good. So as we explained before, we can produce more pizza only if we reduce the production of cola. So we can say that the opportunity cost of producing an additional pizza is the cola that we must sacrifice. Similarly, we can define or compute the opportunity cost of producing an additional can of cola as the quantity of pizza that we must sacrifice. So now let's look at this graph and compute the opportunity cost of pizza. So now if we moved from point A to point B on this curve, the quantity of pizza increased from 0 to 1 million pizza, which means that we have an increase in the pizza or the production of pizza. But what happens to the quantity produced of cola? We can see that the quantity produced of cola decreased from 15 to just 40 million can of cola. So here we can say that the opportunity cost of the first million pizza is 1 million can of cola. So in another way, we can say that to increase the production of pizza by 1 unit, we need to decrease the production of cola by another unit. So the opportunity cost of one pizza costs us 1 can of cola. Now to compute the opportunity cost of cola, we will do the opposite. For example, if we move from point F to point E on this curve, then we will find that the production of pizza decreases from 5 million to 4 million, which means that we have a decrease of 1 million pizza. And then what happens to the production of cola? We will find that the production of cola increased from 0 to 5 million can of cola. So here cola increases by 5 million, whereas pizza decreases by just 1 million. This means that the opportunity cost of the first million can of cola equal just 1 million pizza. This implies that 1 can of cola costs us 1/5 of pizza. So as we can see, the opportunity cost is the ratio that can be calculated as the decrease in the production of one good divided by the increase in the production of the other good as we move along the Ppf. And we should note that the opportunity cost of a can of cola is the inverse of the opportunity cost of a pizza. For example, moving between points E and F implies that one pizza costs 5 cans of cola, whereas 1 can of cola costs us 1/5 of pizza. So each one is the inverse of the other. We have just seen that how to compute the opportunity cost of one good in terms of the other good. Now the question is, will the opportunity cost remain constant if we move between any 2 points on the Ppf? The answer is no. When we move from one point to another point, the opportunity cost will increase. For example, if we move from point B to C on the curve, we will find that the quantity of pizza increases from 1 to 2 millions, whereas the quantity of cola decreases from 14 million to 12 millions. So this means that it decreases by 2 million cans. So between points B and C, we must give up 2 million cans of cola, as seen here, to increase our production of pizza by 1 million. So we can conclude that 1 pizza costs us 2 cans of cola, or in other words, the opportunity cost of pizza is 2 cans of cola. Now, if we move from point C to D on the curve, then the quantity of pizza increases from 2 million to 3 million, and at the same time, the quantity of cola will decrease from 12 million to 9 million, which means that the cola decreased by 3 million. This means that we must give up 3 million cans of cola to increase our production of pizza by another 1 million. So the opportunity cost between point C and D is that one pizza costs us 3 cans of cola. Based on this analysis, we can see that opportunity cost is not constant, but it increases when we move further and further along the Ppf. The question is, what are the reasons behind this increase in the opportunity cost? Now, let's see why we have an increasing opportunity cost when we move further and further along the Ppf. The answer is that because the Ppf is convex outward or concave, because resources are not all equally productive in all activities. What does this mean? It means that some of the resources, such as workers, are more suitable to produce one good, and they are not suitable to produce the other good. For example, if we hired a pizza chef in a pizza restaurant, then his productivity will be very high. But if we move him from the production of pizza to work in a cola factory, we should expect that his productivity will be lower. So when we move further and further along the Ppf, then we shift more resources from the production of one commodity such as pizza to the production of the other commodity, which is cola, which means that the workers that are shifted from producing pizza to producing cola do not have the required skills and experience that will enable them to produce cola, which means that they can produce less than other expert cola producers or cola workers. So we will see that as we move resources further and further from the production of one commodity into the production of the other commodity, then the reduction in the first commodity, which is pizza, will be higher than the increase in the production of the other commodity, which means that opportunity cost of producing a cola will be higher than before. So as I said, moving workers between different activities will be affected by their level of experience and skills. So we shouldn't expect that they will perform well in the new job as they have performed in their field of experience. So this is the end of today's lecture. So let's summarize the main points that are discussed today. First, the Ppf is the boundary or the limits between what we can produce and what we cannot produce given our current level of resources and technology. Then production efficiency occurs at points on the Ppf itself. And third, along the Ppf, the opportunity cost of producing more of one good is the amount of the other good that must be given up or sacrificed. And finally, we have an increasing in the opportunity cost. So opportunity cost of all goods increases as the production of the good increases. So we will stop at this point, and next time we'll complete the rest of this chapter. So goodbye for now, and see you next week.